Hi, you are welcome to another episode of Unraveling the Knots, the podcast where we explore the deep dynamic world of natural hair, identity, health, and all those in-between spaces that make us who we are. I'm your host, Ganiat Salami. I'm a project manager, but as you can probably tell, natural hair is my passion. And I am so glad we get to go on this curly adventure together. Today, we're shifting the lens just a little bit, not just on hair, but on what lies beneath it: skin, identity, self-worth, and the stories that defined how we see ourselves. You see, before there's texture, there's tone. Before style, there's self-worth. And my guest today is someone whose work speaks deeply to that journey. From navigating identity to finding freedom and power beyond society's boxes and standards. Joining me is a phenomenal woman, a resilient scholar, global thinker, and the author of You Are Enough, Defying Expectations and Thriving Beyond Skin Tone Bias, Dr. Olasumbo, Farayola Adelakun. Welcome to the UTK podcast, Dr. Sumbo. It's so good to have you here.
It is such an honor to be here. And Ganiat, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So briefly, before we proceed, can we just take a minute to wow our listeners and invite us to know who Dr. Sumbo is?
So, as you mentioned, I am Dr. Olasumbo Farayola Adelakun. I'm an educator, I'm an author, and also a consultant. And my work, on the whole, lies at the intersection of leadership, policy, and public health. So I hold a doctorate in leadership and policy. And in my day-to-day work, everything I do is deeply rooted in purpose. And what do I mean by this? I mean that every task and decision I make in my day-to-day is guided by genuine desire to make meaningful impact and contribute something larger than myself. And you'll find that this is reflected in my recent book, You Are Enough, as you introduced earlier. So on the one hand, this book explores the global public health crisis of skin bleaching, a practice that disproportionately affects Black women and girls. And on the other hand, the book celebrates 54 bold, beautiful, and accomplished women who are thriving without engaging in this skin bleaching practice. And through their stories, we're reminded of the strength found in self-acceptance and in embracing one's authentic identity. Also, their journeys celebrate the strength of self-confidence, proving that skin tone is never a barrier to possibility or purpose. These women inspire us to embrace our true selves and thrive on our own terms. So in totality, when I look at the whole picture, I consider myself to be a student of life, and I'm a person who draws wisdom from both my lived experiences and my academic studies.
My goodness, I think this is one of the most powerful intros that I've had on the podcast. And what really stood out for me was what you said about you being a student of life. I think a lot of times we get carried away with being a student, graduating with a certain degree and God knows what. But man, there's something bigger than all that life, right? Having clarity about that is, I think, something that is so crucial and important for a lot of us these days.
Absolutely, yes. It's taken me a while to get there, but every step of the way has contributed to who I am and where I am today.
That's beautiful. Honestly, I've truly been looking forward to this episode, and we had to reschedule a few times, but I'm feeling gingered. And I feel like your story, your book, your research touches something deeper than just the surface. So before we unpack your expertise, let's take it personal for a moment. So, what was your own journey with self image and identity growing up? And how has that evolved into the woman you are now?
You're taking me way back. So when I look back, growing up, I was the darkest, still am, the darkest of six sisters. And that came with its own challenges around self-image, challenges around identity. There were times I questioned, based on the experiences I was having, I questioned if I was beautiful enough or even good enough, but my mother's voice was always louder than any doubt and comments from people outside of my family. It was just my family that mattered as a young child. I did leave home very early, but those formative years, it was my mother's voice. So people who told me I was not as pretty as my sisters because of my complexion, or that I would never find a husband. I've been married over 30 years now.
Wow.
Yes. They would tell me things like men like fair-skinned women like my sisters, so I didn't have any hope. But my mother was constantly reminding me that I could do anything I set my mind to. In fact, when I think back, I know she sent a couple of relatives packing because of this kind of conversation. She didn't want them talking like that to me in the house. So she sent them packing. She was a strong woman.
Yeah, your mom is here, so I like.
She sent them packing. So she said I could do anything I set my mind to, and my worth had nothing to do with my skin tone. So her belief in me built my confidence and taught me to see myself through a lens of strength and possibility. And then as I got older, I started to realize that true beauty and value actually come from authenticity, being confident, comfortable, and proud of who you are, where you come from. And that journey was shaped again by my mother's love, by my faith, by life's lessons. And these examples I've given you have made me the woman I am today. I like to think I'm very confident, grounded, and passionate about helping other women and girls know that they are enough just as they are.
Dr. Zumba, I just wanted to hone in to one of the comments that you made about the importance of authenticity, right? What are some of the consequences of not embracing your authentic self?
I think the biggest thing is we lose ourselves. I have recently been watching a young man on, I think it's YouTube. He's in his 20s. And he goes around interviewing people who are in their late 60s, all the way, I think, up to 80s. And he asks them if they have any regrets in how they've lived their lives or what they would do differently. And every single one of the ones I've seen have said, do you. Be authentic. That way you don't have any regrets in your older age or at the end of this journey. That's the common thread. So authenticity, I believe, is really key, because then you're doing things because you want to do them, not because community or society is forcing your hand to do certain things. I know we live in the real world and some things are difficult to do, but the more we start to shift our thinking and we start to satisfy ourselves and be confident in what we want, I think it just makes life simpler, to be honest with you.
Oh my God, that is such a striking reminder. Thank you. Goodness. We're going to go through these questions. We don't have a choice. One theme in your book is defying expectations, especially around skin tone bias.
Yeah.
Many women, especially women of color, grow up feeling like their tone, their hair, their features have to be adjusted or, toned down.
Mm.
Where do you think this pressure comes from? And how can we begin to dismantle it from the inside out?
I believe the pressure to change how we look, whether it's our skin or hair, our features, it comes from a long history of colonialism. I know people will say it's cliche, but it's the truth. It's scientifically proven, and beauty standards that hold lighter skin in a space that defines lighter skin as better than darker skin. I'm going to just very quickly take you back to when I first went to school in England. I was 15 and a half when I left home. All my friends at that time, were toning. That's what it was called.
Yeah.
Because we were all in an environment, we left Nigeria, we're in an environment where people did not necessarily know how to deal with us, had never come in contact with, because we went to school outside London, had come in contact with Black people, and everybody felt the desperate need to fit in. So it's been going on for ages. So I think it's all, again, down to that history of colonialism and beauty standards. So those ideas have still not disappeared today. They've been passed down through generations and reinforced by media, workplaces, and even within our own communities. That's why you would leave home at 15, get to England and start buying toning creams. So for many women of color, this has created a belief that lighter skin could mean better chances, better jobs, more acceptance, or being seen as more beautiful or desirable. So when some women turn to skin bleaching, it's actually not just about vanity, it's deeper. And I want us to recognize that and not judge, right?
Yes.
It's about wanting to belong and to be seen in a world that often rewards proximity to whiteness. But it comes at a very heavy cost. So the cost could be physical, it could be emotional, which we're seeing more and more of now, and it could be spiritual. So how do we change this? We have to start from within. We have to start teaching our girls early that beauty is not about shade and that their value is not up for negotiation. At the same time, we must challenge the systems and messages that continue to favor one kind of beauty over another. Because real change actually happens when we put self-acceptance together with collective action and we change how we see ourselves and how the world sees us. That's the only time real change can start to happen.
Mm. You know what just came to my mind about, and this is like the most random thought ever. What came to my mind about the need to be accepted, right? And why women would think about getting lighter is the irony of focusing on how you look versus focusing on the quality of your character.
Mm-hmm.
My sister used to say something. She's like, she's how would I put it? She's very perplexed by people that focus on people that are just, externally beautiful. And it's understandable by nature. When we see things that are nice, right? We like it.
Yes.
But one thing she says is that when you see that person, is that person going to make you full? Right? So it's like you're so focused on the external. But when you're suffering, for example, if this person is very nasty, is that enough for you? Isn't it important that you just appreciate people and prioritize the important things, letting people be comfortable with who they are, highlighting the importance of kindness, of being a good person, of just like feeling comfortable in your skin and protecting people from engaging in things that are dangerous, like, for example, using chemicals in your skin that are detrimental. That was what came to my mind as you were talking. It's like, yes, there's nothing wrong with admiring things that are beautiful, but it's so important for us to expand the definition of beauty and just stop restricting it to what society has said is beautiful, aka lighter skin, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I actually find it interesting how beauty and policy don't often get spoken about in the same space.
Hmm.
But you studied leadership and policy, and I would really love to hear what you think about this. What role does policy in education, in the workplace, or the media play in either reinforcing or breaking beauty biases?
That it's a very important question. Oftentimes we find that policies are not effective. There's a term we also use about policies that are put in place, but undesired effects are experienced, not what the policy was planned to tackle, if you see what I mean. So beauty and policy, they may not seem like they're in the same space, like you said. They may seem like they're in different worlds, but they actually meet in powerful ways. So what does policy do? It shapes how we see ourselves and how we see others. Policy will also determine who is represented, who is left out, whose stories are told, and what is considered acceptable or professional, especially when it comes to beauty. So I will take, I'm going to cite an example for you very shortly. So for instance, when a school, let's say a high school, they say, we're not accepting these hairstyles. You cannot have your hair this way or that way. You cannot have permed hair. What they don't realize, or they may, is that what they're doing is that they're quietly sending a message about which forms of beauty belong in that space. It is such a dangerous message. Mm. This happened in Ghana. It's been circulating online. I think it was a high school young girl who I believe I don't know her background, but she has really thick, long, beautiful curly hair. And they put her on camera and chopped the hair off.
What?
It's been on social media, on YouTube for the last week or so. They cut everything off, and you could see her face. It broke my heart. Yes, because they said it would be a distraction. So they cut this young girl's hair off. Imagine going into school day one like that. I don't know how long it took her to grow that hair, but it's very long and beautiful. So similar things could also could also happen in workplaces when they talk of dress codes or biases in hiring and promotion. These things can reinforce the idea that lighter skin or Eurocentric features are more polished. We talk about afros as well, our natural hair, and how it's unprofessional in the workspace. This is who we are, the curly 4C. How can that be unprofessional when it's your natural self?
Yeah.
And then in the media, the lack of diverse representation continues to shape how young girls and women actually measure their worth. So really, policy is not neutral. It can either reinforce exclusion or it can be used as a tool for change. So when we go to write policies and we write policies that honor diversity, that honor inclusion, we're challenging old beauty standards and we're making space for everyone to belong just as they are. The question, however, is how do we begin to actually move that needle? Because there's a lot of chatter. And then a year down the road, you go back to the policy and you see the needle hasn't moved yet. But how do we begin to change things? It starts by asking whose image of beauty our systems are choosing to uphold and whose image of beauty our systems are erasing. So how do we create policies that don't just tolerate? Notice I use the word tolerate.
Yeah.
Tolerate differences, but truly celebrate differences. When leadership and policy work hand in hand to humanize representation, we begin to heal generations of internalized bias, and then we can redefine what beauty truly means.
You know what is coming to my mind when you said we shouldn't try to tolerate differences? It's something that keeps coming up for me, the idea of tokenism. You know, and I think that it plays off like very easily in societies. I would say like in North America, right? You're in Canada, I'm in the US. There's this push to say, oh, like, yeah, you know, we basically cater to a diverse range of people. But when you see the implementations or the actions that are being taken, it's more like, let's do this checkbox activity, right? Let's say a surface, right? We've met the requirement of showing diversity, and it shows like it's not genuine.
It's not.
It's so sad. I don't know why people waste their time. If you don't want to do something, it's better not to do it than basically doing it to come across as if you just want to keep people quiet.
Yeah.
People see through the BS, unfortunately. They do. I was also going to quickly ask you a question. The little girl that you said that her hair got caught on camera.
Yes.
Was this a boarding school in Ghana?
I actually don't know. I don't know the background. I just saw this, headline, young girl, hair was cut. And because the authorities felt it would be a distraction in school. So I don't know if it's a boarding school or not. I think I just focused on the action, the act. And I was like, I don't know the stand of the parents. I don't know if they were aware, because I would have fought tooth and nail and taken my child to another school. So, yeah.
I know, right? The reason why I asked is because, so I grew up in Nigeria. I went to a federal government college in Nigeria. It was a girls only school. And I recall from like the first 3 years, we had to cut our hair.
Wow.
And that was the excuse. We don't want your hair to be a distraction. But, another angle was we want you to focus on what technically was the distraction, I guess. But I guess in that case, do you think it's ideal for schools who still implement these policies, right, to continue doing that, or just let people grow their hair and let them feel comfortable in their hair?
I think it's two things. The first would be, if that is the school policy, then perhaps let parents know upfront so that they go in wide open. They can have that conversation at home. You're going to have to cut your hair for this reason and that reason. I don't know what that situation is. So that's the one thing. The other thing is a point I'm going to bring up from some of the comments I read. And apparently it's only the Black kids that are forced to cut their hair. Any international student is allowed to keep their hair as is. So why the double standard? That's what I have an issue with. And that's what I read in the comments. I don't know the Ghanaian school system, but apparently it's just the Black kids. And this girl looks mixed, to be honest. That's why the texture of her hair is, like I said, curly and very full. So if you're going to implement that, then make sure it's across board. So some kids, again, are not feeling less than their Caucasian counterparts. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it starts there. And if that girl were to go abroad to school, she would still have that in her memory, and she would still think she's less than, when she arrives in England or in the US, when she's amongst Caucasian, she's always going to feel like she's less than. That's my own theory anyway. Do it across board.
Yep.
Do it across board. Everyone cuts their hair, and let the parents know. So if that's their decision, they speak to their child, this is what you're going to have to do. But who knows?
That's truly truly tragic.
Dramatic.
If it seems like they're being nitpicky about who can keep
Yeah.
versus who should, cut their hair. I hope,
Yeah.
maybe the outrage on social media would help them change their
I
mind in
hope
terms
so.
of their policies, because that's really tragic.
It's traumatic for a young girl like that, and she had tears in her eyes. It broke my heart.
Yeah,
So yeah, it really did. So
that's
yeah.
that's truly sad. I love like textured hair in its natural state,
Mm.
and it's unfortunate that that's happened.
Mm.
Whew. I know you are not a hair expert, but you're a very knowledgeable lady, given your understanding of skin. You might have something rich to share with us because the scalp is skin too. What's one thing people overlook when it comes to healthy skin, especially in relation to the scalp or hairline?
Mm. You're quite right. The scalp is skin, and we often overlook it when we talk about healthy skin. You'll find, in fact, I don't remember having a conversation with anyone about skin where we've brought up the scalp, but it is part of the rest of our body and the skin. So to me, the scalp should receive the same kind of care and attention as the rest of our skin. That's just my own opinion. We focus a lot on hair products, but healthy hair, they say, actually begins with the healthy scalp. So women of color especially, I find, use harsh chemicals, whether we're trying to change the texture of our hair to make it easier to comb, the struggles we go through because of the texture of our hair.
Yeah.
And even the tight hairstyles, can irritate scalp and damage the skin barrier. I remember when I started losing hair at the front because I was constantly, I don't know if you know a style called Shade Adu.
Yes.
I had that all the time, and I started going bald, because it was always tightly done. So some people, believe it or not, also apply bleaching cream to their scalps so they can match their face. Yes.
Hold, 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 hold. What?
Yeah, so it can match their face. So if they want a part,
Ah,
yes, they can have the same color. Yes. And it causes burns and infections and also long-term damage. Yes. Yes, some women do.
I, 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 I'm in shock. Like I hear people bleach. I hear like they take, special time and attention on their knuckle area so it blends well. But
Oh,
stops in it.
yes. They actually, yeah, they have a solution, inverted commas, open and close, to the knuckle problem now. Do you know, this also started in Ghana, if memory serves me right.
My Ghanaian brothers and sisters, what is wrong with you people?
Women take a pill called glutathione, or they have it um, intravenously,
Huh?
especially pregnant women, so that their babies can come out light skinned.
I heard about that.
You heard about that. So we really have an issue on our hands. But over time, this issue of putting bleaching cream on the scalp and, has led to hair dryness, thinning, like I experienced, and sometimes permanent hair loss. So like the rest of the skin, we need to allow our scalps to breathe.
Yeah.
So gentle cleansing, hydration, and kindness is what I always say. So I believe we should treat our scalp the way we treat our faces, with care and consistency. So it's not just about beauty; it's also a health issue. That's my thought process. On overlooking scalp health, and how we need to really consider doing that and doing less damage.
My, I learned something new today. People be trying things, oh my goodness. Bleaching your scalp.
Yes, yes, yes.
My
Yes,
Ghanaian brothers and sisters, we need to have a conversation.
we
This is not
do.
okay. It's not
And
okay.
Kenyans have absolutely beautiful chocolate skin, you
I
know.
know, like glossy
Yes,
chocolate skin,
yes,
like
yes,
porcelain
yes.
chocolate skin.
Beautiful.
Why? Why are you bleaching?
I don't understand. I don't understand.
Oh my goodness.
But statistics show that Nigeria, India, and I forget the third country, to be honest with you, are the problematic countries. They're the highest on that scale of bleaching. Nigeria, India, and there's another country, so Ghana doesn't even feature on
Wow.
that list. Yeah.
So I was throwing stones instead of actually, I was throwing it, but eventually it's coming back home. My Nigerian brothers and sisters, what's wrong with you people?
Yeah, and you're right, brothers and sisters. It's not just the women in Nigeria, it's the men as well. So
Yep.
we need to have conversations.
Yep. Yeah. It's ironic because people usually think it's just the women.
Mhm.
Men also bleach. So thank you for flagging that. And I think for me, I'm a bit surprised because I know that the bleaching pandemic was big in Nigeria. I would say like maybe when I was little, 20, 30 years ago. Has that changed? Has it reduced? Are people being more informed about the benefits of not bleaching their skin and learning the importance of just accepting themselves for who they are? Has it changed or is it still the same?
Are we talking about Nigeria?
Yes.
It's worse.
Oof. What?
It's worse because it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So you'll find people opening up, renting a whole house, top, bottom, and all they have in there is bleaching creams. You go to parties and everyone has the same skin tone, so it's gone from bad to worse. Yeah. It's gone for everyone's the same skin tone, so it's like, but I find the younger generation, they are more authentic than the ones ahead of them. They are standing their ground, if you will, but no, it's gone from bad to worse in Nigeria. It's a money-making industry. So who's going to want to give that up? Especially if the government is not pushing back, like in Rwanda and a couple of other African countries where the government is banning these products. There's still the black market, but at least the government is, making a stance. But we're not doing that in Nigeria. So it's free for all.
My goodness.
Unfortunately. Yeah.
That is so oh my God. That is sad. Like Nigerian people were big on flexing about our culture, our music, skin color. We don't want to accept.
No, no, we
We
don't
need
want
deliverance.
to.
We need deliverance. Okay. So, Dr. Sumbo, you studied and worked across Nigeria, the UK, Canada, and even the US. I'd say that's pretty diverse, right? Um, what differences have you noticed in how different societies define beauty, especially for women of African descent?
Hmm. You're quite right. That's diverse. You repeating it to me now just made me realize Mutiri.
You walked. You walked.
Yes, I have. So I've seen how definitions of beauty actually shift from society to society, even though when you look closely, the underlying pressures remain the same. So take Nigeria as an example. Beauty is vibrant, expressive. We're deeply cultural people. We celebrate adornment, whether it's in our ashok, fabrics. We're very creative people. But there's also that increase in influence from Western ideals. So skin bleaching, as an example, has become more common because lighter skin is associated with social mobility, marriage prospects, and acceptance. So that's the issue. It's really heartbreaking because it shows how colonial legacies, even today, shape how women see themselves. Now, when we pan to the UK, Canada, US, as they used to call it, the developed world, the struggle is slightly different. The conversation may sound a little bit progressive, but when you listen carefully and you watch carefully, you'll find that Eurocentric beauty standards still dominate. Black women often feel pressure to straighten their hair, to mute their features, or to fit in order to be described as professional or even attractive, you know. So even when they claim, like you mentioned earlier, there's DEI this, DEI that, even when they claim diversity is celebrated, it sometimes happens within narrow boundaries where only certain shades or body types are uplifted. What's interesting is that across all these places, I've also seen incredible resistance. Women are reclaiming their beauty. They're wearing natural hair proudly. They're embracing darker skin tones and celebrating African aesthetics. That shift gives me hope. It's a small move in that needle, but it's a move nevertheless. So ultimately, beauty should not be defined by geography or history. It should be defined by authenticity. So when women of African descent embrace who they are, their skin, their heritage, their voice, they themselves start to redefine beauty on their own terms. And that's when real freedom begins.
Truth. Thank you for an important reminder. I think a lot of times when we think about Western ideals, I think for a lot of people from third world countries, right, quote unquote, we feel like if you can be more Eurocentric, then you're better in every aspect of life. But that's just not true. That's just not true. We're all human beings. And the beauty of accepting yourself is that, as you said, it protects you from losing yourself. But I think one thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the fact that it conserves your energy. I think people don't understand the amount of effort that goes to trying to be somebody else. It depletes you. It destroys you. Basically, it can ruin you. And I'm glad that you highlighted the importance of being authentic so that you can be free.
Yes. Yeah. It's like being on not a Ferris wheel. Ferris wheel. Constantly running, to keep up. And how can you be at peace if you're doing that constantly, right?
Exactly. Exactly. And I think the next question that I have for you is an extension of the question you just answered. So, in your experience, do you think self-perception, how people see themselves, influences their health outcomes, especially mental and emotional well-being?
Absolutely. People's sense of worth, their value and belonging has a profound impact on their health, especially their mental health and emotional well-being. I mentor quite a number of people, and in having even research for this book, you get to know people better. I did not feature all the people I interviewed, but I interviewed close to, I would say, perhaps 80 women. And again, you get to know people that way, and you realize that these things that we don't pay much attention to affects people emotionally. So self-perception shapes everything. It shapes how we show up in the world. It shapes how we handle stress, how we make choices even, and how we care for our bodies. So imagine a child growing up constantly hearing or seeing that their skin tone, their hair texture, body type is less than. It takes root psychologically. And then that internalized message can lead to a myriad of issues. It can lead to anxiety. It can lead to depression. Low self-esteem is a big one. And sometimes even risky health behaviors like the bleaching we've been talking about, all in an effort to feel accepted. That is such a burden. So it's not just about appearance. It's also about identity, belonging, and the human need. We all have that need to be seen as enough. On the other hand, when you look at people who have a healthy self-image, one grounded in acceptance and pride, you'll notice that their confidence, their relationships, and overall well-being is better. It improves, because of the experiences they're exposed to. They tend to make healthier choices because they believe they deserve good care. It's that belief in oneself. So yes, self-perception and health are deeply connected. Healing starts not only in the body, but also in the mind, in how we talk to ourselves, in what we believe about who we are. And that's why representation, spaces that affirm, and honest conversations. I always say in families, people need to talk to their children, honest conversations about identity matter a lot. They literally shape how we feel and how we thrive.
I just remembered what you said about having honest conversations with family.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things we tend to overlook. And for me, I'm an auntie of many. I am taking the deliberate step. I feel like thinking about like the generational differences for Nigerian parents, right? Thinking about myself, I'm almost 40. I think we usually didn't have these kind of conversations. They happened, but maybe one person thought it to be serious. Unfortunately, it left an impression on some of us. But it's crucial for us to be having these conversations at home. It's crucial for us to help our younger ones, the children, the people around us, recognize that they are enough.
Yeah.
If we don't do it at home, other people will let them feel otherwise. And when it comes down to it, family, you have to take care of family.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you have to put in the work, you have to put in the effort. And if we're expecting the world to help us, we're going to be really disappointed. So it's crucial for us to start having these conversations, honest conversations from home too.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, talk about resilience. Your story is powerful. You went from academia to authorship. What kept you going when systems, skin tone, or stereotypes wanted to box you in?
Time to really think about it. I think it's what's kept me going has been just a deep sense of purpose. A quiet strength that I again trace back to my mother. She had 6 girls, in that environment, she had to be a strong woman. So she built resilience in me even before I understood what the word was, what it meant. So when systems or stereotypes or even societal expectations tried to box me in, especially when I left home, I would remember her voice reminding me that my skin tone, my background, my story, all of these things were not barriers. They were blessings. Yes. And outside.
Repeat it. Repeat it.
All of these things, such as my skin tone, my background, my entire story, were not barriers, but blessings.
Thank you.
But beyond that, I also honestly, I don't know if it's also attributed to the fact that I come from a family of all girls. I carry a deep responsibility to help other women and girls, especially those who have not had the kind of support I was blessed with. there are hundreds of women out there who have never had someone tell them they were enough, who didn't grow up with a mother cheering them on. They deserve to be reminded that their lives, their dreams, and their stories matter. One thing I say when I'm sitting chatting with friends and we're talking about life in general is that I often say, all of this work I do is bigger than me. I'm just a vessel through which impact can flow. So my work, my writing, my teaching are not just about personal success, but about service and legacy. Resilience for me is not just personal, it's collective. It's about standing so others can stand taller. So every challenge I've faced has reminded me why I must keep going. The times have been tough, but I have to keep going. I have to create spaces of affirmation and possibilities for women and girls who are still finding their voices. And that's pretty much what fuels me. That quiet conviction that my journey is not just mine, but part of something bigger. It's bigger than me. It really is.
I just have to say, Dr. Sumbo, you are a phenomenal vessel.
Oh, gosh, thank you.
You are. So I wanted to ask you a question that is quite deep and personal. If you could speak to your younger self now, what's the one thing you'd tell her? Something she needed to hear, but maybe never did.
That's really deep. I would tell Sumbo that one day she'll understand that every one of her steps had a purpose. None of it was a waste. And that one day her journey will become light for someone who is still trying to find their way. And her story will give another woman hope. That's what I would say to my younger self. Yeah.
My wish to you is that your light will continue to glow brighter.
Amen.
And be more impactful than it is.
Amen.
This was such a touching conversation. You've reminded us that beauty is never just about looks. It's about courage, clarity, and importantly, conviction. How can people connect with you, get your book, or follow your work?
First of all, I'm going to say thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure and, an honor to be on your podcast. I really, truly appreciate you reaching out. So in terms of how people can follow my work, I can be found on LinkedIn, Olasumbo Adelakun, PhD. That's my LinkedIn handle. Or I don't know how I can get my email. It's birchconsultingontario@gmail.com. But LinkedIn is probably easiest. Also my book is on Amazon.
Yes. We're going to share the link in the description.
I will. I'll share it with you. Yes. So those are the ways I can be reached.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sumbo, for your time and for sharing so valuably with us. If you found today's episode enlightening, send it to your friend or your tribe. We also love to hear feedback. Send an email to utkinhair@gmail.com or reach out to us via Instagram @UTKPodcast. I still remain your host, Ganiat. See you in the next episode. Bye.